I was sitting on a beach in Vietnam with a couple of my closest friends and I was having a chat with one of my pals and he said to me, "When do you want to retire?" I said, "Well, no later than 50. He then said, "Well, when would you like to pass away?" And I said, "Well, 80 would be nice." He then said, "Well, roughly how much do you spend a year? And if you wanted to live a little bit more luxurious, what would that number look like?" I said, "Well, around about 40 to 45k after tax would be nice and comfortable." He then said, "Well, take that 45 and times that by 30. Well, I had to get my phone out at this point because, that's big boy maths, but that number was £1,350,000. He then said to me, "Do you have that?" I looked at him perplexed because of course I didn't. I mean, nobody's got that lying around, do they? But that's the reality that I faced if I wanted to retire early and live comfortably during my old age, or even retire at all. That's essentially when I broke down about my real situation. And this is where it all got started. It was like a light going off and I realized the life that I was living was about to change. In fact, I was actually deep in debt to the tune of £24,000 in credit cards, personal loans, and you name it, I had it. I paid for the trip with my friends with a credit card. I was stuck in a never-ending cycle of debt and I had no way out. But a spark went off inside me and I knew I had to change my thinking and I had to find roughly £1,374,000, give or take. Not easy, right? Fast forward to today, I'm roughly 10% of the way there. I've gone from 24 grand in debt to 110 grand in net worth and it's growing nicely. That's taken me about 7 years, but going from 50 to 110k took only 18 months. So if we carry on this trajectory, we're going to get there a lot faster. But today in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do the same. Step by step, you can do it. We're going to cover getting out of debt, investing, increasing your income, but most importantly, scaling it. But let's get to the start line and get cracking with step number 1, which is breaking down the problem. Instead of just looking at that enormous number and thinking, how on earth am I ever going to get there? We have to break it down into manageable chunks so we can begin to tackle. So for me, it looks a little like this. Debt to net 0, 0 to 100k, 100k to 500k, 500k to 1 mil, and 1 mil plus. Sure, look, these goals literally take years and the whole thing we're talking here could take decades or more, but when you look at it like that, it gives you something to aim towards. What I would then do is, and what I did actually, is take that first goal, 24 grand, and I took it down into even further manageable chunks. So it looks a bit more like 2 grand each time, and that really helped me. Essentially, what I wanted to be doing was knocking off goals every few months so it felt like I'm actually making some progress. So whatever that ends up looking like for you is the name of the game here. But let's jump on to step number 2, and that is budgeting. Now, budgeting isn't exciting, but without one, your new house of wealth that you're building is guaranteed to fall down. It's the foundations of what everything we're doing here is built on. There are lots of different techniques, but essentially what you want is getting a 360-degree view of what is going on with your money. Only then can you start to allocate money to your debts and of course investments after you've actually paid that debt off. I've left a link to my ultimate financial planner in the description below, which is what I built to help me with this. Now, this is not a sales pitch, but it's what I use to manage my finances. I built it to help me get out of that debt, and now I manage my entire life on it, from investments, side hustles, and my household budget with my partner. There is also a 30% discount code off for you too. Check it out if you want below. Absolutely no strings attached. But essentially, what you want to do is work on a budget, and either that can be in the notes on your phone, your own spreadsheet, a budgeting app. Don't care how you do it, just make sure you do one, stick to it, and it will change your life. So step number 3 is, how do we get out of debt? Now, there are hundreds of different techniques, but the one that works for me, and because you can tell I'm super goal orientated, is the debt snowball technique. Essentially what this means is you make a list of your debts from biggest to smallest. Once you have the list, you then lower all the payments down to the minimums, except for the biggest one, which is what you target with all of your might. What this does is allow you to knock off your goals as you go along. Some people like to do it the other way round. Some people like to do it by interest payments, each to their own. They all work, but what you want to do is feel like you're making moves here. So let's run a quick example. I've got 10 grand in debt, 4 grand on credit card 1, 3 grand on credit card 2, 2 grand on credit card 3, £600 on a personal loan, £400 on another personal loan. That's 10 grand. I've listed them exactly like this. Lower the payments for credit cards 2 and 3 and the personal loans too. If you can phone up the companies and explain what you're doing as well. They often can help you out here. I've had it in the past where they've let me lower some payments down to £1 a month for 6 months, with the view of paying it off quicker afterwards, of course. But some help you out, some don't, but it's always worth a try. Then it's about using your budget here to allocate as much money as possible to that big debt. Now, we want to get this debt down to 0. This is not the fun part. We're not investing, we're not saving, and it can feel like you're not moving forwards, but you really are. This is the most important step. Go laser focus on this debt. There 100% is going to be bumps along the road, but as long as your overall trajectory is moving towards the right direction, you're making progress. Now, let's be clear for 1 second on what bad debt is and what good debt is, because yes, there is good debt. Bad debt is things like credit cards, personal loans, and payday loans, and good debt is things like student loans, mortgages, and business loans. What we want to do here is clear that bad debt first. Good debt is important to get down to, of course, but those loans are essentially allowing you to level up, so we'll let those slide for now. Now, the next step is net zero. Now, getting back to net zero will vary depending on the size of your debt, but once you're here, cut up the cards, close them down, and say goodbye to your life of debt. It's now about making moves and starting to make some real green here. But before we do anything else, we have to secure ourselves so we don't get back into debt. That's not what we want. We do this via an emergency fund. Experts say that 3 to 6 months of take-home pay is the right level, and I don't disagree. However, I do believe you should assess your situations. For me, I was comfortable building up 1 month and then allocating a portion of my income and savings towards it each month, and I continually build it up alongside me investing until I reached that 6 months. I just felt like that was way more comfortable for me. Now, the emergency fund should sit somewhere accessible, and you need to find an account with the maximum amount of interest. You want to maximize this. Then the important thing here is, you guessed it, don't touch it. Please don't touch it unless you really need it. Step number 4 is investing. You've got your emergency fund. The money you've allocated to paying off your debts should be thrust into your investments. Don't upgrade your lifestyle. Don't upgrade your phone or car or house. This is go time. Now, let's say you were paying £500 a month towards your debts. That's now going towards your investments. That's a healthy £6,000 a year. It's really not a bad start. Using the magic of compound interest, you will see your money start to snowball over time. Just like paying down debts, we use that snowball effect here. But again, this time it's allowing us to grow our wealth rather than getting out of debt. But what are we going to actually invest in? Well, for me, this situation is quite easy. We're going to invest directly into index funds. It's a fantastic option. Instead of making it complicated, investing into index funds that have returned an average of 10.51% a year since the 1950s, for me, is the way to go here. If you don't know what index funds are, they're essentially baskets of stocks that track a particular index, and they are the top performing companies within that area or index in this case. The big ones out there are the S&P 500. They're the largest 500 companies in the US, and there's the global stock market index, which is, yes, you guessed it, the top global companies too. Now, the reason this is such a good strategy is because it's very hard to consistently beat it picking individual stocks, and that actually takes enormous skill and something which we don't have lots of, which is time. What we want to do is focus your efforts on increasing your income so you can invest more along the way, which is what we're going to cover next. But it's also important to talk about other investment avenues here too, because this will become part of your strategy once you've got some skin in the game and you've increased your input size. This is where diversification starts to become a reality, which is the point that I am at now. So for me, I've got money in the stock market, but now I want to start looking at things like property investing and other avenues such as investing in small business opportunities, which I can come on board with and add value with my team. This all essentially starts to feed that wheel and grow that pot a lot faster, because if I'm just investing a portion of my salary, it's going to take me forever to get to that 1.3 million. We want to think outside of the box here. We want to increase our contributions, and we do this through investing in other avenues too. We want multiple sources. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Step number 5 is increasing our income. So a critical part of my wealth building journey, it wasn't about just finding extra gigs, freelancing on the side. It was a strategic move. I want to amplify my capital here. So I started with what I knew best, which was my day job. And that's likely to be the same for you. I was a marketing manager back then. I committed to developing my skills, pushing my boundaries, and taking on new challenges. This drive and determination that I had really did pay off. And I climbed the ladder from marketing manager to director of a multi-million-pound business in just a few years. This leap wasn't just a career win, it significantly boosted my investment capabilities too. Now, alongside this, I ventured into entrepreneurship. Now, I set up blogs, I set up a website building agency, and they're not just side hustles, they were building blocks for what was to come. Gradually, I transitioned these ventures into full-time commitments. The thrill of growing businesses and the learning curve for me of growing all of this income, it really fed into my passion of building wealth. Now, this brings me on to Up the Gains, which is why you're here, which is my brand dedicated to teaching personal finance. It's been an incredible journey for me so far. We've reached over 1 million people on the website in the last 18 months, and now we're expanding to this YouTube channel to hopefully touch even more lives. Now, this isn't just about the numbers for me, it's about impact and spreading financial literacy. You see, the power of scaling in multiple areas. It's not just about increasing income from one source, it's about creating and multiplying revenue streams that all play their part in your wealth building journey. So whether you're in a day job running a side hustle or even thinking about starting a business business, remember this, that every effort counts. Every skill that you earn, every pound that you earn, every connection that you make has the potential to be part of your wealth building story. And that's what I'm here for with Up the Gains. I want you to take this journey with me. We're going to explore personal finance, investment strategies, and ways to build and scale your income. We're growing this community and I want you guys to be a part of it. So if you're ready to kickstart your wealth building journey, hit that subscribe button. But I don't want us to stop there. Let's dive into investing a bit further. And on my next video, how to invest your first £1,000 is a great place to continue this. Hit that picture of me looking like a total weirdo and let's get into some more investing topics.